Hey guys, welcome to Operation Filemaker from Risk to Perfection. I'm Susan Finema. This is Martha Zink.
Hello.
I am the Chaos Eradicating Officer for Beyond the Chaos. I have 30 years of experience with operations and project management. I am a non-technical, non-developing project manager though. So I use that skill set a little interestingly, making sure I never get in the weeds. I do love technology though, kind of a little geek about that. So I have that in common with all of you developers. I am also a home chef. You can see my dinner table. I love to make multi-course dinners and set pretty tables. And if you think project management is not involved with making a 12-course dinner in an 800 square foot apartment, you have some project management to learn. I live just east of here, about 40 miles away, with my husband, my 2 cats, and my puppy dog, Shelby. And this is Martha.
Thanks. I'm Martha Zink. If you were at my other session, you saw this slide already. I work for Soliant Consulting, and I'm a technical project lead. I love lists of threes, so that's why everything up there matches that. And I love board games, so this was a really good chance to take advantage of my love for board games and my love for FileMaker.
All right. So in this session, what are you going to learn? Project management strategies for one, how to solve on the fly, those kinds of things. Risk management as well, so how to mitigate it for the long term. And then also teamwork and how important that is to actually completing a project.
And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that with a board game. So today, all of us, we're playing the Game of Risk, a cooperative game. Now I will tell you, I do not like cooperative games only in real life. When I play board games, I'm competitive, so we'll have to pick our odds here today.
So how do we play? We're going to navigate through the 6 stages of the FileMaker River. And you can see the stages up there. It's really the typical stages of a typical project.
Then what? Well, then we're going to get the players, they have to get out of the boat and have a status meeting. So there's going to be 4 spots. They're going to get out and they're going to talk about what's going on.
So on those squares, you can either hit calm waters, things are looking good, smooth sailing, we're cruising down the river, or you can hit rough waters, and that's the uh-oh, there's an issue, and we have to solve it.
So to be clear, for the status meeting, what's going to happen is we're going to talk, what a status meeting is, and we talked about this when we were trying to plan the importance of having status meetings or scrums, depending on what your approach is. It's time for a team check-in. And as we talked through it, there are 3 questions that we think are the 3 most important questions in project management, and those are, what's complete, what's next, and
what's a blocker?
What's a blocker? And so we came up with an acronym, which you're all going to have to say so that the board game continues, and that is WIC, WIN, WAB. So as we move to a status meeting, get ready to say it, because it's the only way we're going to get the game to keep going.
So let's practice, everybody. WIC, WIN, WAB.
There we go. Perfect.
We can advance the board. All right. So when we come to a stormy waters, a rough waters icon, we're going to have to roll the die. You guys are rolling the die. So
this is a very interactive presentation, or you may not have known that. Sorry about that. Your waivers are at the door.
And we'll draw a card based on the number. I can't even see it down there. 4. Okay. So
on that card, when we draw it, it's going to tell you what the issue is.
It's going to tell you who the players involved.
And our 4 players are the client, the project manager, the tech lead, and the developer.
And there will be a captain as well. He wears the hat. And that, or I guess I should say she.
Yeah.
That person is going to be the one that solves the issue. So now what? We're going to have to identify, when we get there, we're going to have to solve the issue by identifying what could potentially be the holes in the boat. What's going to sink us? What's going to prevent us from navigating down the river? Or maybe even destroying the whole project. Also, we will problem solve on the fly. What do we have to do right now to fix this issue? And then we will also prevent it for the future. Make sure that we've created some process so that that issue never happens again. And then
once we've solved the card and we've talked through all the possibilities, then everyone gets back in the boat and we move on to the next status meeting.
So let's play the game.
All right. And of course, it's built in Filemaker. So this is where you get to choose a level. Fun fact, I already selected it. So easy is what everybody wants in a project, right? One straight line, easy river, little conflict. But that's not really what happens. And then there's hard, which is how it usually feels. And sometimes it actually is that.
Even if it doesn't actually happen that way. Right.
But we're not going to play that because they only gave us an hour. So we're going to play normal. And we're going to have some, we think that this is a pretty typical project process. So let's play, and good luck. All right, so we're going to start off. At the top, you'll see the 6 phases that we're going to go through, or the 6 stages. So we're going to start off with the kickoff. So we're going to start here at the very beginning, and here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, and we get some stormy waters.
All right, and I can't find my mouse.
So now we have cards. All right, someone's going to come grab this dice. All right, Sarah's going to have to be our dice handler. Your waiver is also by the door. All right, ready?
All right, number 4. Okay, so I'm going to be the project manager on this one. I'm going to be the team captain. The client can't get on the Zoom call to because of corporate download rules. Okay, got it. So this is a problem, right? We're ready to start our kickoff meeting and the client can't get in and everybody's waiting. So the immediate thing to do is to get the client on the phone, find out if we can maybe just get them to call into the number and do the call that way. That way everybody's not waiting, we don't have to reschedule. The way to prevent this is that maybe the project manager should have talked to the client beforehand and made sure that they could actually download the software. A big killer on this could be if IT won't let them download software. And if you get that, now you have to come up with the solution of how to get them in a share screen. It could be something like a Join Me. Maybe they have a corporate one that you can use theirs. So those are the long-term strategies to prevent it from happening again. And with that, our players can get back in the boat.
Back in the boat. All right, so now we're ready to go to our next status meeting. So 1, 2, 3. Well done. All right, we got some more bad weather here. All right, what do we got? All right. Ooh, there was no internal kickoff.
Man, I'm doing a bad job. So I'm gonna be the captain here too. So there was no internal kickoff. Now we all know that that can cause the client to lose trust in a kickoff meeting. That can be your hole in the boat. They will think you're disorganized and nobody knows what they're doing. You're gonna lose their trust in the first 5 minutes. So as the project manager, I would jump in, and the immediate way to solve that is just take your kickoff meeting down a notch. You're gonna make it very simple, top line, maybe talk about just the scope of the project. Make sure you're all on the same page, agree to when your future status meetings are gonna be, and tell them that next time you'll talk about some more details and maybe the timeline. In the call, and then immediately schedule your internal kickoff. Way to prevent it, it needs to be part of your process that never, ever, ever happens. So
right.
I think we can get back in the boat.
Back in the boat. All right, so let's see how else we do on the kickoff here. 1, 2, 3. Oh, we got some nice clear waters. You guys are keeping up, telling us what's going on. Everything's great. So we'll just keep on going. 1, 2, 3.
Quick win, wow.
All right, we're gonna have to get a little more excited here, guys. I know it's happy hour. You gotta earn your happy hour. All right, we got got some more clear waters, so we can get out of the kickoff phase and move on. So why don't we jump over to discovery? All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you guys want happy hour.
You're getting it there. More smooth waters.
Oh, good. Look, we just got right into discovery. Seems like things are going pretty smoothly, which feels great. 1, 2, 3. Oh,
here we go.
All right, let's see. Where's the die? Oh, what is it?
3.
All right. Conversations during discovery only happen with management, not future users. Has anyone run into this before?
Oh.
All right. So this is going to impact a lot of people. It's going to impact the client, the project manager, and the tech lead. So I'll be the captain on this one. So this is, the holes in the boat could be that the client wants to just own this whole process, right? They don't want to let anybody else have input. They maybe don't trust some of their employees. They don't want people to lose billable time. So those could be issues here that we have. The tech lead is really responsible here to take ownership of this and to be very upfront and say, we need to have the right people on this project in order for this to be successful. Making sure that you have the right players at the right time is really important. And this has a huge impact. This is going to have huge holes in the boat later if you don't take care of it now. So it's important to regroup and get the right team. That's going to delay timeline a little bit probably, but it's completely worth it, and it's going to save you a lot of pain later when you have to do a lot of rework. So I think we're good. We'll get back in the boat.
All right.
All right. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Wick, win, wow.
All right. Ooh, more bad weather. Do we roll it already?
All right. 2. Is that a 2?
Unknown scope remains unknown scope. All right. So we'll keep this one on my end here for the tech lead. So this impacts the tech lead and the client. So in discovery, that's the time where you're supposed to learn everything about the project and what you're going to build, right? Or at least have a really solid understanding of what it is that you're doing moving forward. Sometimes you use very qualitative words that don't really get you the right answer. So you might say it has to be faster or it has to be better. And those things are probably acceptable in other conversations, but it really doesn't tell you what it is that you're going to build. It doesn't give you the specifics that you need. So it's really important that the tech lead takes the time to not be afraid to say, I don't know, or to say, I need more. It's important that the client is engaged and helpful in this part of the process. So it can take a little bit of pushing the client in the right direction. But this is going to have huge holes in the boat later if you don't handle it in the very beginning. All right.
Do you think we can get back in the boat?
We're going back in the boat.
Okay, let's go back in the boat.
All right, we got one more here in discovery. 1, 2, 3. They forgot that it's happy hour again. All right, smooth waters, smooth sailing. So good, we figured out our discovery. We feel really good about it.
Let's move to development.
All right. Here we go with the first one. 1, 2, 3.
Wick, win, wow.
Ooh, stormy weather. We kind of thought this was going to happen, right? You get on the boat, you're right into discovery, and you stop. Let's figure out why.
Six.
The client approves the design with no changes. This can't be a risk at all.
It's a miracle.
All right, so I'm not going to lie. Susan came up with this one. I would have been like, that's not a risk. It sounds great. So this is going to impact multiple people, right? The development team really more than anything. And the tech lead's going to handle this one. So this is one of those where it can be really great, and it can mean that a lot of good work was done at the very beginning and there are no questions. But it also means that it's likely that the client didn't engage. They just went, yeah, that looks good, and then kind of put it to the side. It's important that these things get attention early on because it can have a much heavier impact later. So this is one of those where the hole in the boat is that the client might not be engaged, or they could change their mind later, and you could do a bunch of rework now that you've gone further down the development path. So it's important to probe them and say, let's sit, why don't we sit down and talk through it together? Have you had a chance to look at it? But just kind of push them to ask the right questions, and hopefully they'll give you some feedback.
And the good thing is, right you did just nail it. You did discovery great, and you just nailed it.
Yeah, just ask one more time, just in case.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we'll go back in the boat. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. I feel like I'm going to have to start bribing you guys. All right, clear waters, nice and easy, right? Development's going well. We got the design was approved, and they actually approved it, and they're happy.
And we're moving on.
1, 2, 3.
With WinWab.
All right, we got another die to roll here. Go, Alicia, go. Oh man.
Another 6.
I was like spinning the wheel. That took a while.
Click.
Is that 6?
Yep.
The tech lead and the developer can't agree on a technical approach.
All right. I'm going to jump in here because the tech lead's kind of involved.
I'm busy arguing.
So I'm going to captain this. The first thing we want to do is mitigate it and calm it down. Talk to them about being on the same page, that we're all in this together, that you want to make sure that you're acting in the best interest of the client. And then you want to make sure that they are really talking about it, right? Really having real conversation so that neither of them feels really overpowered. So that's really the way to immediately solve the problem, is to get them to talk. What could be a real big hole in the boat in the long run is if they have ego that they can't let go of, and that it might be headbutting throughout the whole thing. So if that's the case, you have to stay on that. I mean, if it gets really bad, you might even have to consider replacing a developer or swapping out a tech lead. Not the tech lead, they get to stay. So discourse is healthy, but keep that ego down, because you really have to try to understand each other and work together. This is our teamwork part.
And this is the part,
client problem.
This is the part where the boat analogy really matters, right? You have to row together, you have to work together. You're allowed to disagree, you're allowed to talk through differences, but really you have to agree that you're going to go in the same direction, or you're going to spin in circles if you're not rowing in the right way.
Can't have 2 people on one side and 1 on the other. Go in circles.
All right, so we got them to talk, they worked through it, and we can get back in the boat.
Back in the boat.
And hopefully move forward. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. Ooh, all right, so development's going great. Apparently they agreed, they built some good stuff. We're feeling good, so we're going to jump over to internal testing. All right, it's a long river. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, stormy weather.
Right up front.
Parts of the functionality aren't complete. All right, so the tech lead goes to test some stuff, or you have your QA, and stuff just isn't working. And some holes in the boat, or some things that could cause you a lot of problems, are if the developer isn't available. They might be on vacation, they could be sick, they could be a no-show, they could be on other projects. If parts of the functionality aren't done and it's not documented, you're going to run into a lot of issues. It's going to be the tech lead's responsibility here in a lot of projects to stand up and figure out what's missing, to talk to other developers if they can. And it's pretty likely they're going to have to step up and do some of that development work as well. The PM is going to have to play a part here, because the PM is probably going to have to communicate with the client that there might be some delays, depending on the amount of work that has to be fixed. Susan doesn't like that conversation.
We're always delivering the bad news.
Yeah, better you than me. To avoid this, I think it's a really good idea when you have a team of multiple developers to schedule meetings where you're talking to each other to make sure that the functionality is where it should be. As much as we're making you say WIC WinWab, we want it to be a real thing. So when you're having status meetings, it's important to really answer those questions honestly, especially with the blockers, because you want to make sure that you're getting the answers that you would expect, and so that there are no surprises at the end, especially closer to the client testing phase. Well,
and another thing is the process part of this. We want to put in place that we always are having internal developer meetings, so that you're looking at each other's work as well. So if that's not part of the process, you want to put those into the schedule.
Yeah, you got to talk to each other sometimes. All right, back in the boat. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, clear water. So everyone says looks like they're doing their thing. Project manager's happy for a little bit, not for long. 1, 2, 3. Man, We're just sliding through this internal testing. It seems easy. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. I feel like we're going to get on our reviews that maybe they said that one too many times. But we appreciate it for what it's worth. All right.
All right.
We need another roll. Ooh, good throw. That's been popular. It's loaded. We loaded the die. So it's not tested on the correct platform. Has anyone run into this before? All right. Who develops on Mac? Who has Windows clients? Who sometimes doesn't test on Windows? Not me. All right, so this one is extremely common, and I think that it's easy to get, we get stuck in our development world and what we know. As it turns out, developers are idealists, and I think someone said that in an earlier presentation too. We want to assume that what we build will be used the way that it was meant to be used, and that apparently is wrong.
And apparently on the same platform.
And apparently even on the same platform, yes. But then you run into issues when you're talking about using WebDirect or iOS, whether it's Windows or Mac. If you're doing something where you've got Android users and they're going to be using WebDirect that way, that's a very different experience than if they're using WebDirect on a computer screen. So the hole in the boat is that the functionality may not be there at all. The hole in the boat is that it's going to delay development because now there's more testing that has to happen. This is, again, where Susan gets a little curmudgeon-y, and she has to go tell the client that now we've got to have to delay the timeline a little bit more because we need to do some more, potentially more development, definitely some more QA. And along with platform, one thing that we talked about this a lot, was testing different privileges. Which also doesn't always happen. So, we are logged in as admin. We can do all the things we want that way. We test our ideal case, and then you don't think to test when you don't have delete privileges or when you don't have access to certain layouts. So it's important to make sure that you test through all the different other privilege sets that you know are going to be using your FileMaker solution.
Future lessons?
I think it's a really good idea that from the very beginning in the discovery phase that it's documented how this will be used, and then that carries through the whole development process, so that when it gets to internal QA, you can actually have a document that says this is what we're testing, or this is how we expect these things to be used.
And even perhaps a checklist. I like the procedure of actually checking the box.
All right, back in the boat. Check. All right, so we made it through internal testing. So again, we had a few little flubs there, but we got it.
It's time to turn it to the client.
All right.
Let's hope we did our job.
1, 2, 3. All right, so the client gets it. They haven't complained yet. We ask them how they're doing, and they seem like they're part of it. There are times where it's really important to make sure that your client is part of your status meetings. The way that we do it often is we have more internal meetings than we do meetings with the client within a given week. But it is important that they're a part of these calls and that you can keep up with them.
I think at the beginning of a project, you should schedule your status meetings throughout the whole end of the project at regularly recurring intervals. So you have a standing meeting with the client to go over things. So that's an important part of this too.
All right, on we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, you guys are gonna have to sync up a little bit more. We'll get it next time then. All right, stormy weather. All right, what do we got?
4.
Not a 5, I don't know.
Do we want that one?
I don't know. Oh. No one walked the client through the solution.
My guess is on that last one, they hadn't looked at it yet.
That might be true. So you give the solution to the client, and they just say it doesn't work, or it's broken.
You didn't do anything we asked you.
Yeah, what happened? So if it's a lack of communication, that's really the biggest problem here. It's a really good idea to have a meeting with your client to help them start the testing process, because you want to make sure that there's a set level of expectation, that they're doing what you expect them to do, that you talk about how you're going to document things, that you can talk about what the expectations are on what they should be testing, what they should be seeing, making sure that they're testing the right privilege sets and things like that. So this one impacts everyone. The project manager is going to have to schedule another meeting so that the tech lead can meet with the client to hopefully walk through some of this stuff. Any other thoughts on this one?
Well, I think it's important to add, I think you might have said, add a client walkthrough to your process so that you're always doing that. But the other thing you can do, it's the John Sindelar approach. Make the videos, and you can turn the videos over to the client when it comes time to test so that they can walk through the parts that they need to when they do it. Now, of course, here's the thing. How many of you make videos for your clients? Oh, a lot of people. That's great. And how many of you have ended a video with a curse word and had to start over? Another way to test your work, too. So it's a good process.
Yeah, that's a really good way. I think that when it comes to training and starting to build documentation for your users, the video is a great approach, doing some text-based if that's what they need, building some things right into your database. But the video is a really cool one because people can just watch it when they want. They can keep it and reference it. They can keep a library of these training videos. Yeah,
it can be for new hires, too, a way to introduce them to the solution. Yep. All right, back in the boat.
Back in the boat. 1, 2, 3.
Win, wow.
That was really good. Man, you guys really took my feedback. I appreciate that.
It was because I was leading them.
They're good listeners. All right. Oh, but we got stormy waters anyway. All right.
Just solved that.
Who's going to do it?
Very nice, Ben.
Okay, so now it's loaded on the 4.
Okay.
The developer thinks that what the client wants is wrong. This never happens either.
The client is always right until they're not.
Well, there you go.
But
so this one could be a really big problem. So this depends on when and how this is communicated. So it is possible that a developer outright tells a client they're wrong, and there's a lot more mitigating that Susan will have to do at that point. You hope that doesn't happen, and if they're expressing their unhappiness, that it's within a better group, right? Within a status meeting, with the tech lead or another developer, with the project manager. But you basically want someone who's going to be able to talk through that. What are you going to do about it? You want to make sure you protect the client a little bit in this, right? So you want to make sure that the client is heard, and I think that the tech lead plays a really important part in that. It's a chance for the tech lead to go and figure out what it is that the developer disagrees with, and then go talk to the client about it. And it really just becomes a conversation. I'm glad we got this card because I get to talk about the importance of empathy. And we're building, and I'm getting shaking heads over there because this is kind of my card. The empathy thing is super important because we offer a service, right? We're not just building a thing. We're providing a service. We're making people's lives easier and better at work. We're doing a lot of really good things, and we got to remember that we're doing this for them, for the client. So it's important that we kind of step away from our own ego or our own hang-ups. And we were talking about this. Sometimes you know when this is coming. You know a developer is getting frustrated with the client. The developer was already frustrated with the tech lead a few status
we have
meetings
the
ago.
same one still.
Yeah, we kept him around.
If not, maybe the tech lead's the problem.
No, that's crazy. That was not part of the script.
Oh, sorry. It was just ad-libbing. I thought that was cool.
So it's really important that there is a discussion with the developer to try to figure out what the tension is and why. I don't think that anyone should be discounted, but it is important to also know that this isn't a conversation to have with a client. Try to figure out what's going on, try to figure out the root cause. That's probably...
And if you have a developer that blows up at a client more than once, they can never talk to a client again. That can't happen. It just can't. It's a big one.
All right.
Okay, I think we can get back in the boat.
I think we can get back in the boat. Say that again? Where the developer has...
So good point. You said that the developer could have thought of a consequence that the client hadn't thought of. Right, and so in that case, explain that consequence to the client, and that gives you that.
And I think it's important that, I don't think that on this card we would ever solve it by saying, no, the developer is wrong, and now they have to do what the client wants. I think that being a trusted advisor, being part of what we do, is to figure out what the team needs and what the solution needs. So talking through it with a client is not a crazy thing. That's probably pretty likely, actually. Mm-hmm. All right, back in the boat. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right.
We're
Clear
good.
waters, man. The client tested, they're happy, we're good.
Unnecessary roll.
Oh man, that's 3 more Wickwin webs. You can't blame that on me.
So we're ready to go to the bug fix period.
Let's check it out, see what we get
Now,
there.
a lot of times at that bug fix transition, you're changing over from just your lead clients testing to more users. It might not be rolled out to the whole team. This is kind of your beta testing. So some chosen specific users, not the whole team yet. So they're going to find more stuff because they're going to use it different.
Yep. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, well, all right. All right, clear waters. So we're good for a little bit?
Another unnecessary.
Man, we're really excited about the die. I'm cool with that. All right, let's try again. 1, 2, 3.
Wow.
Oh, it was really good. All right, well, you can buy me a drink. All right, so we got some stormy weather. Are we going with that one?
Another 5.
5, of
Okay.
course. Susan blew up the die, not me.
Oh, I know. It's my hot air.
All right, the client doesn't accurately document bugs. I will gladly say out of this conversation.
All right, so one of the big holes in the boat that you can get to with this is that the client either won't document the way that you want them to using a tool that you've provided, for example, or they can't. They don't know how to break down what they're seeing to report to you, and you're just getting, it doesn't work, which of course, as developers, you know, is not really any information at all. So the end result of that can be they just start using email. And now you're tracking your bugs in your email program.
Does anyone track bugs that way with their clients?
Anybody have the?
On purpose?
Not on purpose or on accident. How many have had this come out?
Yeah, your client decides to email you and say, or they just march into your office if they're close by, I suppose. It happens too.
It's true too. So that's a recipe for never finishing your project, right there. The way to avoid that is to first start by explaining the reason to the client of why you want to use the tool to track the bugs. Make sure they understand the value they're getting out of that. Explain to them how to document, one thing at a time, please, not a whole paragraph of 12 things in one bug. And then explain to them what a bug is, right? It's not change the whole program because I'm in accounting and no one asked me and it doesn't work the way my old one did. So make sure that they understand that a bug is that it is not working according to the way that it was intended to work. So once you get there, the project manager is going to have to go back through all those emails, pull out the bugs, put them into the tool so that the developers can work on them. And then I guess that really solves the problem, but it doesn't solve the problem of how could we have prevented this from ever occurring in the first place. So I have 2 methods to do that. One is when you're ready to turn the solution over for the beta testing is to go through the tool with the people that you're using, show them how to use it, make sure they know that they can contact you, the project manager, if they get stuck, if they get confused. The other method is that I think that many things need to be trained throughout a process to the client. And if you can have some emails pre-written, ready to go, that describe your process so that when you get to this stage, you can send that out and then they have something to reference. That also is a good way to solve that and prevent it from happening. So
I think one of the challenges here too is that every client is different. Everyone has a day job, everyone is busy. I have some clients that I treat very differently when it comes to bugs and fixes and even deployment based on the way that they work. And I think it's important to have really open communication about those things. I actually have a client who just says, just deploy it, and which is really scary. And you're like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, it's fine. Are you sure? But he does work well that way. And then if there are bugs, he knows what he's getting into. And oftentimes it's, you know, secondary functionality, something that isn't necessarily tied to the main part of the database. But it works well and it works for us. It's a smaller client and it's a smaller project, so it's okay. On a larger projects though, especially, it's really important to push the process, but make the project manager do it. But
I think too, how many of you bill by the hour? Okay, so if you're billing by the hour, the client not doing their part at this stage costs him money. And that is something that you can share with him. If he flat out says, I don't want to do it your way, you can say, that's fine, your budget is, you know, as a way to kind of promote to get them motivated to do it the way you want. And they might not care. They might rather throw money at it, and that's okay too.
all right, back in the boat.
Back in the boat.
All right, just 2 more.
Wow, they got it.
They were so excited. They're like, please. All right, clear waters.
They're reporting them properly.
They're reporting bugs. The developer's not being all weird about it. All right, 1, 2, 3.
Wait.
You can buy me another drink now. All right, what do we got? What do we got? Ooh,
6.
almost a 5. All right, 6 it is. The development team gets frustrated with the bugs entered.
Ever happen? Ever?
So this one involves a little bit of project manager, a little bit of tech lead. Should they be frustrated? I don't know, maybe. This is similar to back in the river a little bit ago. We were having some conflict with the developer and the tech lead. Then we were having some conflict, maybe the client wasn't communicating as well as they could have. We've got to figure out what exactly is going wrong.
It could even be that as far as putting holes in the boat, if the client is starting to communicate with confrontational language, you can figure out real quickly that they are very frustrated. You know, if the developers are being defensive, that's another thing. And again, the bugs could not be bugs, and that is, how do you make that communication happen? So these are big problems that you need to have a conversation about. You want to include the client in the conversation. And again, Martha's word, empathy.
Yep.
Make sure that we're talking people off that ledge. It's okay, everybody, and here's the other thing, at the end, everybody gets nervous because we're about to be done. And when you're done, there's all this change and everybody has to use this, so there's a lot of nervousness with that stage.
Keep in mind that we've kept the client in the boat with us the whole time, right? This is important because we wholeheartedly believe that the client is part of the team. Sometimes, you know, we as developers get frustrated or complain, but in reality, we're all in it together, right? They're paying us to do some work. We're trying to make their lives better and easier. So it's important that we always remember to work through these things. It's okay to be frustrated. It's great if you can internally vent to somebody and kind of talk through it. But at the end of the day, it's important to try to move forward together and stay in the boat together.
I think anticipating that too, I think that's back to the other one a little bit as well. But seeing it coming, you know, if sometimes it's silence from the client that tells you it's coming because they're not saying what's on their mind because maybe they're not confrontational. And then you'll see it, whoa, then you'll see it in writing. So it's easier to write it.
Yeah. And it's important for your client to have a good communication and a good relationship with somebody else on the team. So in an ideal world, the client has a good relationship with everybody on the team. That doesn't always happen, right? Sometimes you just build a stronger bond with the project manager or the tech lead or the developer. But it's super important to have that. You want someone in the group to do that so that they can keep their eye on the client's well-being and making sure that they're feeling okay about the project as well. So you're not, you know, surprised with this at the very end of the project.
All right.
Back in the boat.
Back in the boat.
We made it.
It's done.
So thanks to building this screen today, I realized that there was a huge bug in my board game, and I'm so glad I built my little cowboy dudes so that you guys didn't see a bad database today. I did not focus on my internal testing very well. All right, cool. So we made it through our game, and now we'll switch back to our presentation here, our keynote.
Well, let's talk about what we learned. And I think you probably heard me say it a lot. Process is key. Make sure you know what you're doing, what order you're doing it in. It should be written down somewhere. You should follow it religiously, every project. You'll notice that we didn't have a project description in this because the process of running the project is the same no matter what the scope of the project is. So you always have that same routine around it, which is really important to note.
You've got to think on your feet to solve the problem at that moment. You've got to figure out what is it that we have to do to handle it right now. But then you have to learn from those lessons and you've got to do something with it. So then you talk about what's the plan for the next time? How do we avoid this from happening next? Or in something where you can't control how the client feels or thinks, you say, how are we going to tackle this the next time? So it's really important that you think of risk in both the short term and the long term.
And change is inevitable. And there, I'm a project manager, I said it. Right? We get the reputation that we always want to be so rigid and it's going to fill this out exactly like we started. We know that change is involved. But if you don't have a plan to begin with, being able to accommodate that change can become very challenging. So make sure that you have that plan in place in the first place.
I get to talk about empathy again. Listening and respecting everyone in the project is super important. I'm sure that it's going to sound like a broken record very soon. But it is really important to keep that in your mind. You should try to build good relationships with your whole team. Know the dynamic, know what everybody's strengths are, how you're going to get along, and to really try to be a team and to work through it together. It's completely worth it for the health of the project, for the health of everybody involved. So when you're frustrated, take a step away and then try to come back ready to solve the problem.
And lastly, it's not actually the game of risk. There is not a winner at the end. Everybody wins if you pull together to get to the end. So that's really important to remember, is that teamwork is what makes it, and that includes your client.
Absolutely.
So, this session will have updates?
Yep, we're going to go ahead and upload this Filemaker file, so if you guys want to play with it, you can see some of the other things that we had come up with. So that'll be up there, and we'll put up our slides as well.
Yes, and please remember to evaluate at the end. And now we would like to hear, please challenge us with your questions of what are the issues in your projects that you don't know how to mitigate and prevent.
Any questions on risk or things you've dealt with? We just answered all of them.
So you talked about with bug reports how there are certain things that are not bugs, like asking for new features or totally changing how things should work. How do you handle when those things come up late in the process when they should have been
Can
earlier?
I answer that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So telling the client no is an important thing, is important to have in your toolbox. But I don't like to say no. Later is better. So to make them feel better, make sure that you have a list where you're capturing those things. It could be a wish list, a later list, I think. What do you?
An in and out list.
In and out list. So that they can see that you're making that list when they make that request. And so you can tell them, look, we talked about in discovery what you wanted to create. We don't want to just randomly throw something new in it, even though it might be a great idea. It's not in scope of the current project, and if we try to add it, it might blow off your timeline, and it might take longer, and it will cost you more money. So let's do it after this part of the project is out and being used. Some things that you find happen in that are either the client finds out they don't actually need it because it is working as it was intended. Or they come back and say they don't even know what that meant when they told you. And the other is that it could be a brilliant, great idea. And at that point you can say, I'm ready to build my next project for you. I have a nice list. So let's put that together and make it phase 2.
This is way too tall for me.
Whoa.
So how do you, what happens if a project leaves in the middle of a developer leaves in the middle of a project and you have to do some knowledge transfer, data transfer. Do you have tips for that? And also, do you bill for that time?
For a data transfer, is that what you said? For like information transfer between developers?
Yeah, exactly.
No, I think she's saying, let me clarify. You were saying that the developer left without handing, like ghosted without handing off things?
Well,
I wasn't thinking that, but either way, like you have to.
Okay. Do you want to take this one?
I don't think that's a tech lead question.
All right. I was supposed to say I don't know. This one's a challenging one. I think that there's, you've got to try to figure out what it is, how much you're going to transfer, right? I think it's not unrealistic that a project is going to have multiple developers and that there is some cost associated with that. I think commonly we've internally decided not to always to comp some of that because it's our internal decision, especially if a developer has just up and left. That's not necessarily the client's responsibility. If we're augmenting the team, so if we're making the team bigger, I think that seems billable, right? If they've got more needs or more work, I think that seems fair. So, in an ideal world, you can talk to your client about it and say, we'd like to bring this person on and talk through it and make sure that they're aware of it and okay with it. And then I think it most likely is billable and acceptable. Strategy-wise, I think this is why the discovery phase or the foundation phase is so important. You hope that you have enough documentation to hand off. And where that doesn't happen, you want through the development phase, you want the system itself to have as much documentation as possible. So, great question.
I can also add, if the tech lead is not involved in that process with the developer, then if the developer ghosts, now what? If the tech lead's involved, they'll have an idea where the files are, they'll have looked at them, they'll kind of have an idea of where they are. So it's important for the tech lead to be involved with the developer.
Absolutely.
Very good presentation, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Sometimes we discover later on in the process that the person that has been directing us is not really the decision maker. So any advice on how to detect that during discovery phase, how to get close about if a person has the authorization to make decisions or not?
So who is the financial and operational decision makers and how to get to them? Is that the question?
Yes, often we talk to, like, for instance, a department manager, and then it turns out that the real stakeholder is the manager above, and he starts, like, commenting on the project and then starts changing the direction of the project.
Changing it, okay. Are you chiming in on that?
Yes.
Okay, okay, so the answer from our audience is who in addition to yourself will be making these decisions. And I agree with that, absolutely. At the beginning of a project, you should absolutely find out who is your financial decision maker and who is your operational decision maker. Sometimes they're the same person. And you may or may not be working day to day with them. So if you are not working day to day with that person, you need to find out how that other person is going to be involved. One way that it can be is regular status updates from the project manager after status meetings to loop that person in. But if they show up at the end and just find out that you're out of time and out of money, and it's a surprise, they're going to be really upset. So talking about it.
I think at the beginning it's smart to document who is on the team and to actually give that back. So have some type of page that they have access to if you use a wiki system of some sort, or to email it. And you can even outright ask who are the people and what's their contact information, so that that's all in one place. Even if it's in an email, at least there's some history of it, and you've communicated back and forth and talked about the importance of that. It's kind of hard because a lot of these things you manage the risk early on. So the sooner you can find this out and the more questions you can ask at the beginning, the more you'll avoid in the end.
And sometimes there is a surprise. I've asked that question and gone through a whole thing, and the person will say, okay, let me go talk to my partner. Do you have a partner in your business? So sometimes there is a surprise, but the earlier that you can find that out, the better you can mitigate it.
Yep.
Is everybody just ready to go to the party?
Happy hour! And I'm getting 2 drinks.
I just thought this was a really innovative way to make a
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. We know it was a little bit later than we initially expected, but we really do appreciate it. And hopefully you enjoy your evening and enjoy some cornhole. Thank you.